Hi, I'm Bart Herbison, Executive Director of the Nashville Songwriters Association. And the story behind the song this week for the Nashville Tennessean, the song is Born Country, writer Mr. Byron Hill. And you write it with John Schweers, who, if we started talking about what John wrote, we wouldn't have enough time on the interview.
Oh, man. Well, John's a great writer. He's been around a long time, and certainly is one of those writers that I looked up to, when I first moved to town. And we were writing for Tom Collins, Tom's publishing company, and I was signed there. And we wrote that song, I guess, about 1990, 91, somewhere in there.
What was the idea? Who brought in the idea? Let's talk about that day in the writer's room.
I really can't remember because we exactly whose idea it was, but somehow we just latched onto that and went with it. John and I have written a lot through the years, and it seems like there's kind of a rural thread that runs through some of the things that we write. I don't know if it has to do with his upbringing or mine, but so Born Country was kind of right in our wheelhouse. That was our kind of thing. And
well, let's expand on that, because you're from North Carolina, and I got to tell you, I've always loved that song in the sense that, and we'll talk about how it became an anthem for people and all that later, that, would you agree, Byron, that's the kind of song that can be, with just a word or a line or two, not authentic, but that one was.
It's possible. There's been a lot of songs out there with that sort of a theme to it. It's kind of, I guess it was maybe one of the first I'm country kind of songs, but I don't know. It felt very authentic to me, and it was coming from the heart. I mean, I grew up in the rural side of area of the county in Winston-Salem, near Winston-Salem there, and certainly John, being a Texas boy, I know that he grew up in the similar kind of setting, maybe even more rural than I did. But we drew from our roots, for that. And it certainly, we didn't write it at a time when that was a big trend at all, to a country anthem, talking about your roots. There wasn't a lot of that going on at the time. It's since then become quite a big deal.
Teddy Gentry of Alabama, his memory of the day he got that song from you, and I've heard you tell your story.
Yeah,
so
right.
I just think it's so cool. And Byron, also, before, I'm going to get wordy here, but before you answer, I think there's a lesson to songwriters in this, particularly in this time in the music industry, because there was a day when creative spirits just depended on their song plugger. You better empower yourself with every opportunity for cuts these days and to write with the artist. You certainly did it on a morning after you wrote Born Country. What happened?
Well, I like to tell the story of writing for Tom at the time, who was quite a taskmaster, Tom Collins, and he wanted his writers in there bright and early. And Born Country had already been written and demoed. Actually, Joe Diffie sang the demo on
Really?
Born Country.
You still got that?
Yeah, I sure do. I'd love for you to hear it. It really is cool. I mean, he sang the demo in about 10 minutes, and Joe was fast. So I had been carting that song around and trying to get it out there, basically stalking, people to try to get it to anyone I could. And my publisher had been working the song a lot too. But one day I was writing, as a matter of fact, right across the street from the music mill. There used to be a house on the corner there, right across from RCA Studio B, where Tom's offices were. And on the second floor, a little window overlooking the street, there was a magnolia tree out there, I remember. It might even still be there. But I was in that room writing with a co-writer that day, and my co-writer looked out the window and he said, "Hey, there's Teddy Gentry from Alabama walking by." Well, before my co-writer could turn around, I was out the door, down the steps, out to my car, and I had the cassette in the car, and I ran out into the street and I gave it to Teddy. And so I didn't know Teddy. I'd met him a few times, but I really didn't know him. And so I gave him the cassette, and he said he would listen to it. And it wasn't long after that they called and said they loved the song and that they were going to cut it. And then it seemed like it was no time after that they called and said that they had cut it. And it just all happened very fast. It made it on that Greatest Hits 2 album, I think was the name of the album. It's a white album
Great
cover.
album for a songwriter to be on, too.
Oh, yeah,
It's
because
automatic sales. And the new song or two on a Greatest Hits, they're going to be the singles.
Well, yeah, it usually works out that way. So, so anyway, the way I like to wrap up the story is that I was in that little office bright and early every day, doing exactly what Tom wanted his writers to do. I was there bright and early, had a cassette in my car of something always, ready to go, So the lesson is being in the right place at the right time, I guess.
Now, his memory is a little more sinister in that he goes, songs would come to us in every way. He goes, one day, I was over here early and I walked down the steps and he goes, some guy in a trench coat with his hands in his pocket ran up to me and he goes, I don't know if the guy had a gun. I don't know what he had. And he goes and he pulls out his cassette.
Well, he didn't tell you the part. He was wearing a fur coat in the rain.
I remember those pictures. I'm going to remind Teddy of that.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to find that shot and put it in the documentary.
Yeah.
But he says, and sometimes when songs are meant to be, Byron, that afternoon he and Randy had a flight.
Yeah, I believe you're right. Yeah, you're right.
He played it for Randy. Randy loved it, and it happened very quickly.
Yeah, it really did. So, and
were you over here when they recorded it at the Music Man?
No, I didn't.
The first time you heard the cut?
Oh my gosh! Well,
because I think they nailed.
Well, our demo on it was quite simple and kind of a little more just basic, kind of a roadmap for the song. But Josh Leo and Michael Lee, right? They did that produced that, and it was like, wow! It was an amazing. It just sort of went to another place, I just remember they had this sort of string background in a couple of spots in there that just took it somewhere else. It was really good. So.
Well, and I think that it became, in the same way Farm Aid kind of became a sense of pride for the American farmer, not necessarily farmer, but working man, but rural sensibilities. And I think, again, as we said earlier, there could have been a danger. It could have been with just a word or two, instead of uplifting, condescending, but you guys nailed the exact verbiage, the imagery. Byron, to me, I know a song's a hit when I first hear it, and I remember this all those years ago when I heard it. I could see the video in my mind.
Cool.
And you've had to have heard from the people where you grew up and people from rural America a reflection of pride bouncing from that song.
Oh yeah, I was just up in Murray, Kentucky at Murray State University last night and played it, and it gets the same reaction every time. There's a little bit of a patriotic element in that song that people seem to love, and it I don't know, it touches a lot of things. It touches the rural thing, and I always set it up a little bit. I don't really. That song appeals to so many people. You don't have to be born country to like that song, But if you, but if you have a love for the country and you love country music and things, the song just sort of has a way of crossing all those boundaries. You don't really have to have been, born out in the sticks to like it, And so, and it just has a pretty cool appeal. You can almost feel it when I play it in the room. It almost feels like people want to do a standing ovation. It's a strange feeling.
So let's hear a verse and a chorus of this week for the Nashville, Tennessean, the song written by Mr. Byron Hill and John Schweers, Born Country.
Okay. Clear creeks and cool mountain mornings, honest work out in the fields, cornbread in my mama's kitchen, daddy saying grace before the meals. Family ties run deep in this land, and I'm never very far from what I am. I was born country, that's what I'll always be. Like the rivers and the woodlands, wild wild and free.